think people are a lot more kind than we expect sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you present them with a challenge, the challenge of accepting you, a lot of people are actually up to that challenge sometimes. And if they're not, find new people.
Yeah. Go where love is.
Go where love
You
is.
can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Hello.
No.
Hi guys, and welcome to 140 of the Two Twos podcast. I am Nana,
And I'm Ro.
and together we are Two Twos. Boom, boom, boom. Now we got a special guest in the building today. We've got Tatenda, who is a multidisciplinary artist, transgender artist in music, in performance and directing. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you
It's
very,
so
very
nice to
much.
have you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So tell people what you do. You tell.
Yeah, you
gave
expand on that. I mean, yeah, but like expand on that because I feel like that's quite broad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And there's a lot going on there. So tell us.
Yeah, there's a lot up in there.
Yeah.
I tend to refer to myself as just like a maker because I write, I direct, I perform, and I make music, but that's become much more of a hobby than like a thing that I call a lucrative
Yeah.
endeavor.
Yeah.
I make music for fun, but it ends up, and then like sort of like in the theater industry, it ends up being like, oh, I need a dramaturg to look at this script, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So it's sort of like, and I guest lecture sometimes at Goldsmiths as well. So it's sort of like, I do a bit of scholarship, a bit of. Actually, a lot of practical, but yeah, it is. I sort of just toss myself around the theater business.
Right.
What happens? Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, when did this start for you? Like, was it an early age? What came first?
Yeah,
You know?
I started off as a 6-year-old girl in California, and then I started off just in musical theater. Like I got tossed into this like random summer camp that my like little friend wanted to go to, and couldn't convince her mom to take her to unless one of her friends showed up, and I was like, that's like the last thing that I would want to like do with my free time. Please don't make me. And then the rest is history.
You loved it.
I fell in love.
Yeah.
I was a really, really shy kid before I got into the arts at all. And now, like, it really brought me out of my shell. And so I did musical theater as a kid, sort of like off-Broadway shows sometimes would like come and tour like in my town in California, and then we would be there for like 2 weeks or whatever, or there'd be like a summer show with the community college, and I would be like one of the very few children on stage when they needed a child in the show. and then I'd go along my merry way and like just be at school most of the time. And then when I was like a teenager, we moved to Switzerland, my family, and that really slowed things down.
Oh,
Switzerland.
It wasn't much of a musical theater.
It doesn't give.
No.
After you've been to California,
I know it's a bit different as well. Culture. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good in a lot of ways. Like I got to learn some German and some French, and like discover that America is not the entire world. Which is very good for everybody to figure out.
It's funny.
So I was pleased about that. But yeah, Switzerland is woo. The social politics and the artistic scene is not of another sort of like more metropolitan or more like sort of culturally like focused place. So I took a big long break to actually just be like an adolescent child and like go through school. And then once I moved to London when I was 18, I started up again. I studied drama at Goldsmiths. And then it became much less sort of musical theater focused, and I went more into just like drama with a capital D. And I really enjoyed that. And then I fell in love with directing while I was at uni, fell in love with sound design, just like a ton of stuff. Goldsmiths is great for that. Like you just sort of learn everything under the sun. So I spent a lot less time being in shows and much more time like making them. And then every now and then if I feel like performing or duty calls, then I'll get
Then
on
you
stage
jump
as well.
in.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about like just growing up in Cali. What was the neighborhood that you lived in? What was that like, and how did that even shape you in the beginning of your life as well?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's those early childhood years. They do a lot. I grew up in Carmichael, California. It's this like tiny, quite Republican, quite Christian suburb of Sacramento, which is the capital of the state, but we have nothing to speak for in terms of what goes on. It's a very dull place.
Okay.
If you guys are familiar with the movie Lady Bird, it takes place there. Film is with Saoirse Ronan. Yeah, that's our claim to fame. That's the only thing.
But it looks, because I've only seen the trailer, and it looked like it looks like it's somewhere in the south. Like it's so
You know,
dull.
It's really like when I say barren.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing going
child.
on. But, yeah, and so obviously, and like it was like a really, really like a quite white like neighborhood and community that I was in. And I went to a Catholic school in that space. So as a queer kid who didn't know that they were trans yet, but was already like brown in a really white Catholic school, there was a lot. There was a lot. So growing up in that environment, I think like, you know, you sort of like, I was really blessed to find musical theater because it was a moment where it was like,
You can express.
you know, you're just on
Yeah.
stage and you don't have to be yourself. You're somebody else and you get to,
Escapism
you know,
as well.
yeah. And like the theater industry is so weird. Like, you know, you're under such extreme random pressure for no reason to make a little play. So like, you all
It's so important, even in school.
I feel like in America it's a different level of
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absurd. Like everyone, like it really feels like a life or death situation if you make that costume change happen in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so, but what it does is like it really builds like family. Like you like it feels like, you know, you have like war buddies from that one show you did in TV. So I think that was a really lucky thing for me in that like both of my parents were immigrants in the US, but I was born there. But, like I don't know, I think I didn't realize how different I was when I was growing up because obviously as a child you don't really recognize those things. And because I was like genuinely like relatively like embraced by my community, especially because of the drama side of things. It wasn't really until I moved to Switzerland that I realized that like being black was going to mean something for me.
Yeah.
Because I honestly like I mean like yeah, like I'm brown, my mom is black. Yeah, this is like my like life, but it didn't really come up in a really major way until I moved to Europe, and then it was like, oh, that's the only part of my personality.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my whole identity to people who are meeting me now.
Yeah.
But then obviously like looking back, I think of like, you know, memories of my childhood and I go, oh yeah, no, the racism was there the whole time.
The whole time,
But I
yeah.
was just like blissfully ignorant.
As a
and-
child, you don't know.
No, you don't know.
You don't
You don't know.
understand,
And like no
so-
one was gonna say. And like, you know, it just became like, you know, like my mom, when she needed to, was the type of parent to be like, listen, I'm going to give you all the tools you need to operate in the world. And when you need to know, then I will tell you.
Yeah.
But otherwise, just like live your life and be like,
Yeah. Because you're a kid,
do
isn't
your
it?
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, it shaped me a lot. I think I grew up feeling really, really different for a lot of reasons and not really being able to pinpoint them. And then like over the course of my life, I figured out just how true it was. That I was a little bit different.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So
So what was that like? So what part of your when you were growing up, was it in Switzerland or was it when you came here that you actually had this awakening and you really knew who you were?
I think, I mean, like these things, it comes in stages, right, for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, you start off, you're like, in your like adolescence, you sort of like have a moment of like, I think I've got it now. This is who I am. Brilliant. Excellent.
Yeah, it changes
Let's
all the
go.
time.
Yeah. And then like 2 years later, you go, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
And I think like similarly, like the exact same thing happened for me, where I was like, I mean, I think for instance, like I knew I liked girls like my entire life. Like, honestly, like I was like 4 years old and I was like, I don't need to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
It's here.
I know what I like.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I'm 4.
Yeah.
This isn't gonna be this isn't gonna come up.
Yes.
And then I think, well, it was sort of convenient moving to Switzerland in a way, because when I was like 11 in Catholic school, I tried coming out to one of my friends, and she like told all of the girls in our
Oh, why does that happen? That's
and was
just
like,
like
yeah,
a
it's one of them ones.
so,
It's
such a
just like,
movie thing.
literally that. And she was like, well, listen, it's not a problem for me, but like, you know, like my parents aren't going to let us go to sleepovers together anymore. And like, you understand that obviously we're going to have a different relationship now that you've told me this.
Yeah.
And I will need to disclose this to everyone else.
Of course you
And
do.
of
Yeah,
course, that's just
yeah,
business.
yeah.
Yeah, classic.
I went to Catholic school as well, and I didn't come out in school,
Okay.
but other people did.
Mhm.
There was no way I was gonna come out after seeing their experience. No way.
Yeah, I was a fool. I was a fool.
But
for
was
that.
you the only, like, one of the only
I
ones?
was the only one. I was
Right,
the only
yeah.
one. I was the only one who even tried that shit.
Yeah.
And I then like a few months later, my parents were like, we're moving to Switzerland, and I was like,
Okay.
this is actually decent timing for me.
Yeah, I can
Don't
get away
mind.
from this.
Yeah.
And then I like resisted coming out entirely until someone else in my school did, and then I saw that she had a completely okay reception.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, sweet. Let's do it. And then it was like this like continual coming out, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just constantly, I came out as a lesbian, and then I uncame out, and then I came out as a lesbian again. And then I was like, actually, guys, I think I'm bisexual. I dated for a guy for like literally 6 years. And I was
6 years.
6 years. It was the ghetto. It was the guy.
I love this.
I think I was just really trying to convince myself that I could do the whole thing.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm a woman and I'm so happy that I'm doing that.
Right.
It's going great for me. And I'm in love with this person and this is all going to be so awesome. And then
It wasn't that.
It just got too much. And then, I went to Goldsmiths and if y'all know that fucking uni, it's like you can't come out of there cisgender, man.
Right.
The theater and performance department, it's an LGBT factor.
Yeah.
It's a queer bubble.
It is.
100%.
It is a queer bubble.
It was wonderful. Like, it's so great that I just made so many queer friends, and like I knew that I was very happily out as like sort of just like a queer person. I wasn't labeling anymore because I was sick of coming out. And then I discovered sort of like in maybe my second year of uni, I was like, yo, this whole like I think it was analyzing like sort of like what it is to perform gender like in an academic context made me realize that was my whole life. And that my performance of femininity was actually really draining, and that I was sort of like doing everything right, actually, like I was performing femininity to like a really actually quite excellent standard. I give myself full marks.
Yeah.
On me pretending to be cis.
Yeah.
It just really didn't feel good. And I was like meeting more and more people who had sort of like broken out of the mold of that binary system and who were presenting in the way that made them actually feel comfortable. And I was like, yo, I can do that.
That's the thing though, you don't know that you can do it, because I think growing up, even for us as like masculine presenting, it's just like something that you don't know you can do, but it's always been in you. And it's always been like sort of like a tomboy, but at sometimes parts of your life you feel like you have to conform, because when you see people growing up, it's like, oh, you're a little tomboy, but you're gonna grow out of it and you're gonna become femme, and then you think you have to. So I remember being in like around 16, 17 and feeling that I had to femme it up, and of course I did it all right. It wasn't too bad.
But how you felt was
but how I felt
Yeah.
wasn't good.
That's
How
the
I
thing.
felt inside,
That's
I
the
wasn't
thing.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
like,
mean?
Yeah, I feel like making other people comfortable with your gender comes at the cost of your own comfort.
Right.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started.
It's really that. And like I remember like it gets explained away in so many different ways as well. Like, oh yeah, she's going through a little like a tomboy thing.
Yeah.
Oh, she's copying her little friends. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, this girl has older brothers and she wears so she's gonna
Right.
and you're just trying to copy her.
Yeah.
There's always gonna
There's
be
an excuse.
Yeah.
And I also was like I mean I still am like just like a very big feminist, and I was like weirdly, I sort of just didn't want to let the side down. I was like, I don't want to let the woman team. I was like, yo, it sucks for everybody to be a woman sometimes. You know what I mean? And I was like, maybe I'm just like sick of like the exhaustion that is misogyny, and maybe that. And I was trying to talk myself out of it all the time. Where I was just like, yo, like being a woman is uncomfortable, like for anybody.
For anyone, yeah.
So I was like, what's so special about my experience of womanhood that makes it so? But it just sort of got to a point where I was like, talking to more women about being a woman, and I was like, wait,
You weren't relating.
Yeah.
Really giving.
Actually, there's actually something going on here. But I think it was like a continuous just process of discovery. And then I got to a point where I was like, this one isn't it. Like, it's just not it. And I can do something about it.
Right.
And so I think it was, I was around 20. And then I was like, guys, I think I'm non-binary. And they were like, oh, cool, that's completely fine. But like friends who had known me for a really long time were like, so when you say, so how far are we? So like when are you getting on hormones? Like what are you gonna,
Okay.
like, everyone was sort of like when the first person I came out to, they were like, honestly, when you called me up in tears, this was sort of the first thing I was expecting you to say. And I was like,
wow.
oh, so everybody, okay.
Right.
It's weird because sometimes everyone knows apart from you.
Yeah.
The ones who are close to you and the ones who love you, I want to say. They always
100%.
know
Yeah.
before, but they're just waiting for you. They're giving you that grace to kind of know yourself and come out to yourself.
Absolutely,
first.
They're like, and I think that's wonderful to be able to have the room. But I also I'm like a person. I'm very good at. I'm all about the denial train.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm very good at hiding things from myself.
What's that sign of you?
I'm a Scorpio.
Scorpios.
Yeah. Cut that out of the podcast. We don't need to know about that.
No, oh my god, that is so funny you say that, because it's just like in here, it's just everything's just so confusing. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
I'm like, I just, listen, need to know basics.
Yeah.
And this is like from day. I was like, if I need to know about this, I will deal with it.
Right.
But I was like, I think at every turn, I was like, I don't need to deal with this yet. And then I was like, this is actually really affecting my whole life right now.
Right.
So let me just confront it and do the thing.
So in terms of your identity and how you present everything like that, how does that show up in the art that you create?
Yeah, I mean the show that I'm working on that is coming up this upcoming week.
We just get into that.
Yeah,
let's
let's get into it.
It really comes up in that
Yeah.
piece. A lot of it.
We've read and yeah.
It's called No ID, and it's pretty much about. I mean, the main focus is the bureaucratic journey of transition.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that my gender has presented itself to other people is sort of like forms the structure of the piece, where it's like, let's look at like this feminine life, and let's look at this more ambiguous life, and let's look at what it is to become a man when you didn't start off that way, and like how that works for somebody. And then the through line of that is like the paperwork journey of getting there.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
Yeah. And you know, being somebody who, you know, was born in America, went to Switzerland and then came here, I think there's a lot of paperwork involved in that anyway.
Amen.
And then when you now add on top of that, you know, being trans and everything like that, it's a ton of paperwork.
Yeah.
So what was that for you in real life?
Yeah.
Real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, right, like I showed up, my dad is from Belgium and my mom is from Zimbabwe, right? But I have a dual Belgian and American citizenship.
Yeah.
So I came to the UK right before Brexit was going to make that impossible for me. So I had to do all of that paperwork just to make my legal status here like a thing, and to like, you know, get my NHS number, my national insurance, like, make sure my EU settlement scheme is sorted. Brilliant, fantastic. Literally 6 months after I've done that, I go, I need to do that with a different name, a different gender marker, and all this stuff. Then it becomes, who do I talk to first? I was like, oh, maybe like if I just go like the England route. Turns out you need to be a British citizen. Turns out you need to know somebody who is a citizen who has owned property for like 10 years. Turns out there's all these ridiculous, weird, classist and
Not
xenophobic.
on
Literally. I was like, how is it? But also, like, this is also like for like, you know, for instance, if you're like in a marriage and you want to change your surname, you have to go through like really very similar, like stupid hoops to make that happen. So I was like, okay, let me just leave that. Let me go to the Belgians. I go to the Belgians. It's in the pandemic. They go, you can't come anywhere near this embassy. Leave us alone.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's completely fine. They were like, you need to go to a lawyer to sign like not a legal, like not an official like deed poll to change your name. You have to just sign it in the presence of a lawyer and in the presence of a solicitor.
Okay.
Then get it notarized by this like the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. I was like,
this is too much.
This is already a lot. Then they send it back to me, and then I like send them a ton of forms and a stupid amount of money and like ship it off to the Belgian embassy, and then they change my name. Can they then change the gender marker in my passport? No.
What?
So, and because I wasn't born in Belgium, I have to go directly to Brussels Town Hall
Oh my
to
God.
change the gender marker in my passport. Now, have I changed my name? Yeah, no, because I want to change both at the same time. obviously.
Yeah.
So then I go, okay, do I change the name first, or do I like change the gender marker? Do I change the name, then get a passport in the right name, but that still says F on the passport with a new photo? Maybe. Then I've got this F on my passport with this dude with a beard on the picture. What's that going to give when I'm at the airport and just need to get through border control? I was like, let me just leave that. Let me just do it all at once. I was like, I'll go to Brussels Town Hall, get the thing changed, fine, whatever. Then I like, obviously it's like you can't travel because I was doing this all like in pandemic time.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Long story short, I haven't even started. I decided to make a play about it instead.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, it doesn't sound like you could even get it done in the time.
Yeah.
Then
Like
till now.
in the time, and like
Yeah.
also like the amount of money and the amount of time that it just like
The money.
takes. It's like I'm also trying to pay my rent and like, be a person in like this city.
Yes, London is
Yeah.
expensive.
Amen.
Yeah.
And in the US, it's like a whole other, like, completely other, like a whole can of worms. Like, you have to file a court order and, like, present it in court to
Right.
get the name changed. And I'm like, so I have to go to California for how long exactly to get all of that done?
So everyone that changed then, they go to court.
Apparently. Unless, I mean, hey, if anybody listening to this,
If you know another way,
you've got a
child,
hat in
let
the
us
state of
know.
California,
Yeah.
but also because the U.S. is like every state has its own laws,
Yeah.
in different respects. It's like, oh yeah, maybe in like Kansas, it definitely wouldn't be easier.
No,
That was a poor example. That was a poor example.
No.
But you know, like there's probably a state where it's like you show up to some office and they go, okay, fine. But
Yeah.
also, I'm like, I've moved country so many times now, I'm not sure where my birth certificate is.
Right, yeah,
I'm
of
like,
course.
what realistically do I actually need to like present as evidence to these people? There's so many things where I'm like, I think I need to take like 6 months off of my life
To figure it
Yes,
out.
manage.
Yeah.
That's real life admin.
It is,
Yeah.
it is, it is a
Real life.
lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But even last week we was talking about how like privilege is a big thing because you know, Zaya Wade, I don't know if you've heard, but she's got her name changed legally, and her gender as well, gender marker, I guess. And they've got a lot of money, you know. They've got money, and I'm so happy for her.
Things help when you have,
but it does help,
and things move quicker when you
have
money,
and less painfully.
So it's definitely an access issue, which is quite sad, because you find that, I was saying this again, that a lot of like transgender, even queer people are misplaced. You know, like they don't have the support, they don't have the finances, you know, to do certain things. So it's actually like it's a headache, and I definitely feel like it should be made easier.
Amen.
Really but tell us more about the show though. Like, how did you even begin like writing this?
I think, well, because I used to make a lot more music than I do now. My voice pre-transition was like half of my personality. Like I was the girl who sang. And it was a big part of my identity. And
what did that sound like?
When you walked into a room, you sang.
Like, you know, like it would, like, you know, people would be like, you know, we'd be at a thing and like I'd sing along to something and people would be like,
oh my god,
okay.
Yeah.
You were a person doing riffs.
No, I mean, it depends. I think I tried to be very like, you know, like humble and low key about it. I wasn't one of them ones where it's like, you know, the song comes on and you're like, no. Like, that wasn't me.
But you know, some people are humble and low key. Let's just say we're in the car. I'm gonna paint the picture. We're in the car and I don't know, Burna Boy. Let's say Burna Boy is playing, and you are singing along, but you're singing some that Burna Boy is not singing. You're singing some different version, but you keep saying it. You'll be like,
added on.
No.
Were you that person?
I wasn't ad lib girl.
No.
I really hated ad lib girl because she made all the rest of us look bad. But it would be like, you know, at the talent show at school, I would always sing. I was in the musical theater, so I was like, people would like see me on stage singing all the time. And like, for instance, like I was, and this is possibly more irritating, I was harmony girl. So like,
I like that
Beyonce
though.
singing, you know, the one thing, and then I'm doing like, the harmonies. Which was a really enjoyable experience for me. Is a fun gimmick in the car, maybe the first 3 times. And bro. I don't do it anymore. But that was definitely my life.
But I feel like you were gonna ask to sing, weren't you?
No. I was gonna ask what your voice sounded like before, and if you thought about whether that would how that would change, and if you wanted that to change.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think it was like, it was a big, like it sounded, I mean, like I spoke like, honestly, like practically an octave higher than I do now. My voice isn't super, super deep, but it's like, I was very, very high pitched.
Right.
But I mean, it's in the show as well. I sort of used some of the music that I wrote in my first year on testosterone to sort of like guide us through. And like in the show, you sort of hear my voice prior, and oh God, I can't believe I mentioned the harmony girl thing because I do harmonize with my preacher. That's fine. In the show. But it's for art. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. You're right.
But yeah, no, I think when I was thinking about getting on testosterone, it was like, obviously, like I was very aware that my voice was going to change, and it was something I was excited about in terms of like my day-to-day like speaking voice, but I was really worried that it was going to interfere with my ability to sing.
Right.
And it was such a, like, even if I wasn't making music to be performed, it was such an emotional release for me to be able to just like, you know, like write a song, bash it out, and like that was my therapy for a really long time. And so I was worried for a really long time that my singing voice wasn't gonna be able to keep up with me. And it doesn't anymore. Like I can still carry a tune and everything, but I don't sing as well as I used to. I think a lot of that is also just like I'm going through puberty again.
Yeah.
Your voice changes, and like you have to sort of wait for the dust to settle, and then you can start training again. And I'm just trying to be as gentle with it as possible because I'm 2 years on testosterone right now. But that puts me at like what 16 puberty time. So I'm like, let me give this a second. But it was really jarring. Like I think I was really excited about it at first. Once I started realizing that my upper register was becoming a bit inaccessible to me, and I was gaining lower notes. I was like, amazing, awesome. But then it's like the same thing that you go through. Like as a singer at like whatever 13, I was like, oh my God, I have no vocal control anymore. This is so frustrating. And I already was like singing a lot less. And I'm sort of there right now. But I've got the hope that like 5 years along the line, when I was like 18 or so, my voice really came back in full force. So I'm like, maybe 5 years on
it will come back.
I'll just be back in the zone. But also, I'm sort of enjoying like playing with what my voice does now, because different genres sound good, and like different sort of like I used to have like a really clear voice. Like that was like, it would just like pierce through any accompaniment. And now it's much more like sort of like raspy and that sort of thing. And it's because your vocal cords like sort of can't keep up with how artificial hormones are switching. They get really raspy. But I like how I sound.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I was gonna say
really,
you must. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really helped a lot. Like it was a big source of my dysphoria before I transitioned, and so I'm really happy with like how my speaking voice works now. But I miss my vocal capacity. I don't miss how like she sounded. She sounded amazing. She was good. I wouldn't want to sound like her now.
Yeah.
It's not for you.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
Yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine. I hear that.
Okay, let's get into it. So no ID. So let's get into the beginning of how the show started, from like casting, producing, and like everything like that. So how did you get the team together?
Yeah.
And how did you all gel and just work together in general?
I've got the absolute privilege of living with my director, Sean Wong.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very good friends. We met at uni, and then upon graduating, I was like, you can't escape me. We're going to stay best friends forever. Yeah. And you're going to live in my house. So I trapped him, and then it was just one night where I was listening to some music that I had written that I was like, I don't think I can actually sing that anymore. And I was like, damn, that's so crazy. And then I was thinking about sort of like what it is to have two different voices applied to one person, and how, and then like, you know, sort of how these like all of these documents don't really speak to the person that I am, but it's all I have to say for myself in like the bureaucratic world. Yeah. And I shit, you know, I was just like sat at our kitchen table in the dark sipping some tea or some shit, and I was and Sean was sat on the sofa, and I was like, hey, do you want to make a show? And he was like, yeah, okay. What about? And I was like, probably about being trans or something. And he was like, yeah, okay, sweet. Like,
yeah.
And how do you want to? Yeah. And like, it was as simple as that. And I think there's something so wonderful about like being in this city and being able to make art with like it's so much about the people that you learn to collaborate with. And I think without him there, I wouldn't have facilitated actually making it happen, because what happened like the week after that was Sean saw on Instagram, like Theater Peckham was doing a call out, like, we're accepting applications for our inaugural like Fringe festival. Okay. And he was like, you should submit that, like that thing we were talking about. So I hadn't written the play. I didn't really know what the hell I was trying to talk about, but we made this application to get it put on in like a matter of months. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be about this. It's going to be about bureaucracy. It's going to be about paperwork. It's going to be about blah, 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 blah. 2 weeks later, it was like, you've got it. And I was like, oh shit, we got to make the play.
Yeah, go write it now.
I think it was really good for me because like I work really well. I only work under time pressure. I can't say I work well, but it doesn't happen if there's not pressure.
I hear that.
Like, really be like that. So I was like, okay, fine. I was like, we started off sort of like devising it, like sort of like what kind of sounds do we want? What do we want this world to feel like? Where are we? How long? What's the time span of this piece? And that sort of thing. And like sort of structurally, I was like, okay, we're going to go through it like pronoun by pronoun, because I went for like first I was identifying as she her, then I was a they them, and then I was a he him. I was like, we will do the actual logo as 3 sections. Like, we've changed it since then. That was like the work in progress version. So now it's like my dead name is the first section. The second section is titled like sometimes befriending trannies makes it hard to say cis. And then the final section is still just he him. But so it was sort of like mapping that journey and how much like my bureaucratic nightmare ended up like infiltrating my whole life. And that's how the set works. Claudia Casino, who is also my flatmate, an amazing designer, who she graduated from Central in stage design, and now she's doing an MA at CSM. So,
so you all still live together?
We all still live together.
That's amazing. That's like it's a community, especially like what you saying about, you know, being in like musical theatre and going to drama school. It's just like you build a community of people that you can collaborate 100%. With, and that's what is so beautiful. Because if you're procrastinating and you're not getting shit done, they'll be like,
they're literally banging down your door. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, hey, could you pass me the sugar? And it's like, no. Where's the draft?
Exactly.
And 100%, like, they don't let me off. I think that's really good. Like, I sometimes just need babysitters. And very much that sometimes. And
that's nice.
I feel the same.
Good. Like, we've got a very, and it's so much about like, it's,
I need that. Yeah.
Someone needs to be monitoring me, or I don't know what I'm gonna get up to. So I've got them about, which is really, really nifty. And so I sort of just drafted the play as we were sort of like making it and rehearsing it, and then we put it on for 4 nights at Theater Peckham as a work in progress, and that went really well. And then I was like, okay, it was only like 45 minutes long that time. I was like, let's make it an hour. Like, let's stretch it out. And then we did it again at Theater Peckham, but part of their Young, Gifted, and Black season. And that was in their bigger theater space. And it was super daunting. And I think it took a year off of my life. But it was still a really, really worthwhile experience. And now we've got a show that we're ready to present to people, like having done those like early wibble wobble processes. And like shout out to Theater Peckham because they are so amazing at like pushing you and holding you and giving you the kind of attention that you need to push your work past what you even think you're able to do. Amazing organization for that. So they were a really wonderful like home for the beginnings of it. And we're bringing it to Vault Festival. That's amazing. We'll see what happens.
So for Vault Festival, how did you get into that? How did you...
I applied for the Vault 5, which is like a mentorship program. They take 5 artists, one of which was Tabby Lamb a few years ago prior to the pandemic, who is the person who did a solo show about her gender that made me realize it was like the same day that I saw her show Since You've Been Gone that I like went back like Waterloo Station way and like was on the phone with my partner at the time and I was like, there's something I have to tell you. Like 100% thanks to Vault Festival, I was able to come out.
Look at that full circle.
The festival, and I was performing a show right before I came out as well about like performing femininity. So it was like a really formative like place for me, like right before I was in my like proper, transition game. And so I was already keen to like do the show somewhere like in a bigger fringe venue with a wider audience as well, because like Theater Peckham is amazing to like gather all your South London people. But I was like, I want to get a little bit less safe with this. Like, Vault Festival isn't as held of a space, and you have to really compete to get attention for your work. And there's so many amazing artists doing amazing work there, and it's so diverse. And I was like, let's enter this space. And thankfully, with the encouragement of my partner, who is conveniently also named Tatenda.
No way.
Was also making a show for Vault Festival that just closed. It was fantastic. And they were like, oh, you should apply for this thing. And I was getting both of our emails because they couldn't conceptualize the fact that there were 2 Tatendas. Making work and applying for the same thing. And then we both ended up getting it. So we were both in this mentorship together, holding each other accountable the whole year. And that was really, really great as well.
Wow.
So,
that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
That's amazing. Like, what can people like expect from the show? Is it like, because it's not like your typical play, is it? There's music running through it. There's lots of tell us a bit about what people can expect.
I think expect a good dose of laughter. I think when people hear about trans shows, they think, oh God, I'm gonna have to find out what your mom thought. Like, it's gonna get really depressing and you're gonna talk to me about how isolated you are and all that shit. But we're not really doing that. We're not doing the trauma porn thing.
Right.
It's a lot of laughter, a lot of like just like so much paper boxes. And it is sort of like we string through. It's not a musical, but there are songs. And we use a lot of archival sort of footage as well, sort of my previous version of myself and what other people have to say about the person that I was and the person that I am now. It's like a combination of sort of like, it's a guy stalking himself. In a way, I'm sort of just making the case of like, like the idea is that I'm trying to prove to HMRC that I am the same person with that other national insurance number. So can I please file my taxes? So it's sort of a case file and also a bit of a time capsule and just a laugh. It's very, very silly and also a sort of a rabbit hole through bureaucracy to get to.
That sounds amazing because you said something about how like those people at HMRC or wherever they're just going to see a file, but they don't know who you are. And this seems like this is like a case file, but it's about who you are as a whole person and from like beginning to where you are now. And it just seems beautiful. And
I'm looking for the scene. So how long does everyone have to go and see? Because I know they don't have too.
They don't have that long.
So don't doubt on getting these tickets.
Don't hesitate. We close on Sunday, March 5th. So we are on for 1 week only until someone begs to have us again. But so we open on the 28th of February and we close on the 5th of March. We're on in the evenings, every evening at the network.
Okay, so this comes out on the 29th.
Yeah. Well, there's no 29th because
first of
it's the
March.
first.
Oh no!
Yeah,
God.
there's no 29th.
Time's
So
going
y'all
too
got
quick
4
for
days.
me.
Yeah.
4 days.
Guys,
Yeah.
so as you guys are listening to this right now, so this especially came out yesterday. Now that you guys are listening to this, you buy the tickets now. Yep.
Yeah,
Go buy
get them
tickets
now.
Yeah.
Get them.
Go buy it right now.
Go buy it
Don't have
now.
long.
Yeah, you don't have long, and you don't want to miss this, because what we want to do is, because we don't get to see that many, queer shows, and when it does come out, we definitely need to buy tickets. We need to support. We need to be there so we can see more of them. Because if we all rush out to see the show, we can probably get it on for much longer. Yeah, we can get a longer run. Yeah.
So I don't think people really understand what it means to support something, like something, especially something that they want to see more of. I think people feel like, I haven't got time this week, so you can even do a pay it forward and get someone else to go see it. But like, how important is it that people actually go and support stories that they want to see more of?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of support is a super ambiguous term now. People say, "Oh yeah, I support you." Like I mentioned you to my mate when we go and got coffee, and I'm like, "That is, you know what?
It's a form of support.
It is a form of support. It's wonderful." But like the impact of getting a ticket and going to see the show and then telling somebody about it, like even if something as simple as like one tweet, it increases the profile of that show like immeasurably.
Yeah.
Or actually very measurably in a really positive direction. But also like making like sort of like small scale fringe theater, for instance, like just to make this show, I owe the festival £1,000. So if I don't make £1,000 in ticket sales,
then
I owe them. I just owe them for that.
Yeah.
So the stakes of that one ticket, it really makes a very strong difference in my ability to fund the next show that I'm trying to make, because we all know that Arts Council does not like to dish out the funds
They don't.
for just anybody. And
Not for us.
No, they don't.
If anyone from the Arts Council is watching, I really
Bring the coin.
Yeah.
Bring the money.
Bring what's wrong. I bring the money.
I'm such a serious artist. But yeah, no, genuinely, like getting a ticket or telling anybody to get a ticket. You know, if you're not available, but you think, I think of this person who might be interested, invite your friend.
Yeah.
Don't just see the show by yourself.
Yeah.
Bring somebody.
Yeah.
Like it's very easy to support a show, actually. Even if it is simple as like, I'm putting it on my story that I wish I was seeing this show, but I don't get to. So you should, and then you sharing the actual link, making it as easy as possible.
So someone can click on it.
People can click it and go to
Not link in bio.
No. I don't want to see your bio.
No.
Don't put me in your bio. But something actually, speaking of support, something that we're also doing for No ID this time that we're doing the show is we are taking other people's top surgery fundraisers to share at the end of every show. So usually at the end of every show, I do a little plug, like talking about my own fundraiser. But thankfully, over the last 2 years, I have raised the funds that I need to get my surgery to happen. So 18th of May is my surgery.
Congratulations.
But so now that I've actually gotten that support from my community, I really want to spread that support wide as possible. So any trans masculine people of color especially, but trans people of color in general, I would love to be able to share your fundraiser at the end of the show. We're going to probably have like a big QR code where people who are hopefully very moved by the show and want to support people who exist outside of our easily accessible systems support as much as possible. So I want to see those links so that I can give them.
Yeah, please do.
You
know what? I see them floating on Twitter and Instagram quite a lot.
Literally.
And I think when people are fundraising, I can imagine it can be quite disheartening when you see somebody who has like a big following, or someone who has, I don't know, just a bit more popular. Do you know what I mean? And they just raise the money just like that. Because a lot of people do send us their links to like share and stuff like that. And I can imagine when you see that, it's a bit disheartening. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of, and you just want to be yourself, and you want to be able to show up in a way that in your body where it's comfortable for you.
100%.
And there's just this one barrier that is money. So a lot of the times it's money is the barrier. And when you see other people's GoFundMe's just get filled within 2 days, I can imagine it's just, and
it's also like the people you know, for instance, I have the absolute privilege of having grown up in Switzerland with a ton of rich white kids who feel bad. And for me, it still took 2 years. So like the fact that, I talk about that with a lot of my trans friends, like the Elliot Page phenomenon, who it's like, I'm so wonderful. I'm so pleased that this person is here in the public sphere, getting attention as a trans man, living in his truth. And obviously it wasn't like, it's never an easy road for anybody. And in the public eye, the pressure is so different. But I'm also like,
He got money.
Bruh. You got to come out, disappear, and come back looking like that.
Yeah.
Damn. You can afford to.
Yeah.
Like some people can't afford to like just go away and just kind of, I don't know, reinvent themselves and stuff like that. Because you need to pay bills. You need to show up. You need to be present. Do you know what I mean?
And it doesn't like remove how happy I am for the people who are able to do that, who have that kind of access. Because I want everyone to have that kind of access.
Yeah.
But
it's just like
it would be nice if everyone had that.
It would be nice if everyone had that access. So I think, it's not about taking away from anybody who does. It's just about giving it to as many people as possible.
Yeah, it's true. Because even our last guest was Tyler, and he also had to raise money for his chest surgery as well. And I think most people do. I don't think I know anybody has just been able to put
just
the money
has that
down.
money.
Has
Like how much does it cost? Like
to transition, it's like absurd. Just the surgery alone, it was. For me, to get the surgery done in London, it was £8,500.
Yeah, that's what I think. Tyler said about the same.
Tyler said around the same.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who go to like Turkey or go to Poland or go to other places in Europe where it's a bit cheaper to do. But then you have to deal with like for the first 2 weeks after you get your surgery, you can't lift your arms over your head.
Right.
And so you're stuck in Turkey. And I'm like, I don't really want to be paying a hotel.
It all adds up.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like the bill is gonna even out.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah. And if anything, you have to go back for
disorganized like me, booking a hotel, I'd be doing it 2 days before.
Yeah.
You get one Airbnb.
Amen.
Yeah. Last minute Airbnb.
Literally that. Yeah.
No, it's
everyone send the links. I think it's
amazing.
Send your links.
So important. And you know, one thing I would say is our community does show up a lot of the time. You know, we just have to get in as much people's eyes as possible. But the community does show up. Do you know what I mean? And the guilty people show up too.
And that's great. Yeah. That's absolutely fine.
If you get some money because you feel guilty, bring it.
Bring it.
Bring it.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
So we will all share that same £5.
Listen.
Yeah.
After this project, what do you have planned for the future? Like, what do you want to do? Like, where are you going? And
I'm just making stuff more than anything. I sort of, when I'm not self-producing work, I am working in the theater and some other form of fashion. So currently I'm assistant directing on a streetcar named Desire, like right after we closed. They were at the Almeida Theater, and I got to work with them there with Rebecca Freckles, the one that Paul Mescal's in. He's an amazing guy and very good at acting and all that jazz. So got to learn a lot from that company. And I'm joining them on their West End transfer. So I'll be there.
Sick. Wow.
Yeah. Currently I'm assistant directing Booty Candy at the Gate. The Robert O'Hara play. It's the UK premiere of that. It's at the Gate, and it's still on until March 11th. So if you missed my show, you should catch that one.
We'll just go to both.
Go to both. Don't miss any. Go to both.
Go to both. Black and very queer and very joyful.
That's what we need.
Yes.
Do you know what it was like when we first saw Foxes? We were like, we've never seen this before. I grew up like loving theatre. I used to write plays. Now I've moved on into film, but I used to love plays. I used to write. I love writing little scenes and stuff like that and showcasing them and stuff like that. So just going to the theatre, seeing black queer people on stage was insane for me.
It's mad.
Like, it's crazy. You don't know what that like does for you internally. It's like, oh my God, this is so validating. Like, I'm seeing myself.
It's true because Nana had a play in the theatre before, Oliver Twist. If you guys don't know, it was Nana that wrote that, Oliver Twist.
It was a musical. It was an Afrobeats musical.
And I didn't know Nana at the time, but I had to go. I went because I was like, this is black in the West End. I'm going.
Yeah.
That's dope.
And I didn't know this person. I didn't know her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it was nice to see like so many people showed up and so many. It was nice to see so many black faces. When you go to theatre, you don't always see them.
No, you don't. No.
Not really see it.
Yeah.
Even if it's something about blackness, you still don't really see black faces.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of white people who can't wait to hear black people talk about what it is to be black.
The trauma.
Yeah, and I'm
was
happy
nice.
they're there, but I'm even happier when I see black faces in that audience.
Yeah, because a lot of time black people don't go because of access. They haven't got access to be there.
Yeah.
So to see that for Nanas, it was amazing. And this stranger, but now you're my best friend. And like, I think it's even more amazing when you add the queer elements to things, and then you just see an audience full of black faces still. Because I don't know if you saw Gabrielle Union's speech at the NAACP Awards, where she's talking about how the black community show up for those who are familiar. They don't, and it doesn't. That grace is not always extended to LGBTQ people, and the passion that was in there. And it's true. Like, I want to see all types of black people in these audiences. I don't want it to just be black queer people seeing black stuff. Like, everyone needs to be there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it's like there's something about we're like having conversations about what it is to make a safe space, but then also how do we invite people into the spaces where we are safe, where like they need to be brave. Like it's like it's a brave space for you, it's a safe space for me, and I don't need you to like. It's like that negotiation of like, I am safe here talking about my Black queerness, and you are a Black person being confronted by something that's not usual for you, and how do we keep each other, you know, feeling like we have equal right to this space right now. But it's like, no idea, it's an invitation.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're not familiar with this sort of thing, show up.
Yeah, 100%. Like, we went to Foxes, we didn't even know what it was about.
Yeah.
We didn't even know that it was queer. We just thought, okay, we're going to go.
Yeah.
Dope.
And then we saw the lips. We're like,
We saw the kiss. It was like, we just like,
especially with that because they were scrapping before the
yeah. It wasn't expected.
We were just like, our reactions were so funny. But they won awards for that, so it'd be great to see you win awards as well.
Yeah.
Like, everyone just go and support.
Yeah.
We're gonna add the link.
Yeah,
We're gonna add
we're gonna add the link there, and we're going to be there too. We're gonna catch the show because it sounds amazing and definitely something that's up my alley. You know,
no, Nana loves a bit of theatre.
I do love a bit.
She loves a bit of theatre.
I do love a bit.
We'll definitely be there.
Yeah,
wonderful.
But yeah, there was something that you wanted to say. Oh, the Wade change name.
Oh yeah, no, I mentioned that briefly, but Zaya Wade, Dwayne Wade's daughter, has, you know, been able to change her name legally and her gender marker. And somebody that I follow on Instagram was just like, why is Dwayne Wade pushing this? This is a kid. And I was just like,
no, aren't people bored?
I'm so tired.
Aren't they bored?
I was just like, do you know what? Dwayne Wade has taken his feelings out of this because he loves his kids.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to. It comes down to taking your feelings out of it and just moving with love.
Amen.
Do you know what I mean? And I think, and I had to explain it in that way. And I was just like, you don't know what it's like to move through the world feeling like you're not normal, like you're unnatural, to think that your feelings are just like, you're just different, you know? And then she was just like, do you know what? I can't imagine what that's like. And I think she got it after that. But it's just that initial thing of putting yourself in that. Why is it always about you? Why is it always about you?
That's the thing. Actually, it's funny. You were talking about what's next. I'm so keen on making a piece about that. Like, I've been thinking about it so much.
Yeah.
And actually, so much of these things, like these extreme reactions to people just living their truth.
Right.
It's about you.
Yeah.
What has this threatened in you? What has this shaken in your identity that makes you so fearful and so violent?
Yeah.
Things? Because I feel like I'm threatening your security and I don't know why. And I would like to find out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I would like them to investigate that.
I would like them to find out.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not going to find out, we'll find out for you.
I love
that.
Yeah,
I'll play about you. There you go.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, I think like what this person was saying was that, like, you know, Zaya Wade is a child, and yes, she's a child, but you know, children do know what they want. They have feelings. Are their feelings not important? Of course, their feelings are important.
Like, nothing's permanent.
Exactly.
Like Dwayne Wade's rich. He can change the name.
Yeah.
like, you know, these things are not like, even for me, if I were to get off of hormones today, my voice would stay mostly the same. But a lot of the other things about my like physicality and the way that my body works would just bounce back.
Yeah.
So it's like, can we all just take a breathe?
Yeah.
Just relax, babe.
Just relax.
Take a chill pill.
Do
you know what I mean?
It's not deep,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Do you know what? This is very random, yeah, but I have to ask you guys.
God, I'm scared.
Have you heard of the word confet?
No.
I
have, but
I heard the word.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know what it means.
So what is? So random. It's a theory that heterosexuality is the expected norm, the standard that is prompted, or the standard that is prompted socially. Somebody texted.
Is that what?
So I don't know if this is an official, because someone texted this to me.
I've never heard of this before.
Practice out of habit, basically nudging people to opt for hetero relationships regardless whether they truly desire to or not. So basically, liking a man until he likes you back, only being attracted to feminine-looking men, picking men based on how attractive they look to other women.
Yeah.
And just kind of, do you know what I'm asking? Because it kind of reminded me of what you were saying earlier, that you kind of have this performance.
Yeah.
And it's just like, even when you were with this person for 6 years, it just reminded me of this word. Because my friend was telling me about, she was literally talking about me this morning. That's because she said that's what she thinks she is or something like that.
So is that like a new sexual.
Girl.
I don't know.
I was talking to my partner about this recently, and actually, I have to give my ex of 6 years some credit. It turns out they're a they now, so
it makes sense. It's fine,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Quick relationship.
Yeah. Okay. This sexuality makes sense.
Yeah.
I think there is this idea that like I was talking to someone about it who was talking about the idea of like queerness being a choice, and I'm like, but surely the flip side of that is that heterosexuality is also a choice,
right?
Like, why are you telling me that I'm choosing the wrong thing? Like, are you choosing every day to be straight?
Yeah.
Because if you are, then okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know a lot of straight people do say that they end up saying they choose, but I don't think they really.
I think it's just an argument.
Yeah.
I think it's just they want to. It's just an argument,
but they don't know what they're saying when.
I chose to be straight. So
you didn't choose.
Like, well, okay, so you've chosen this, and like, would you choose otherwise if you didn't feel like it was the right thing to do?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because that means heterosexuality isn't the norm. It's not the natural.
Yeah.
It's not
if you
the
have to
thing
choose,
that must be like biologically ingrained in you.
Yeah. It's not how you're born.
Like, like genuinely, I think some people do choose to be straight, and I don't actually have any criticism for that. Like, if you're saying I want to be a family man and I want to, I want to live in the world in a way that is comfortable, and I would rather sacrifice maybe a fuller exploration of my sexuality in favor of living in a way that makes sense to other people. Go on.
That's your choice.
Thing.
That's your choice. I mean, we was talking about it the other time. We were saying that we know a guy who said, "This is what I want my life to look like."
Yeah.
I'm a queer man, but I want a wife, I want a kid, and and not that you can't have it the other way. You can obviously can.
Yeah.
But that's what he chose for himself, and it was just like, okay.
Cool.
We
Do
respect
you,
it.
I hope that she's all right with that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's like at the end of the day, like I wouldn't condemn anybody for making the choice to go down that route. It's a very popular route.
Yeah, I mean,
but just don't give me shit for the way that I'm living my life, because I'm very happy.
Yeah.
Very healthy.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is as well? It's just like so many of these people who are just like transphobic, homophobic as well.
They're not happy.
They be kissing girls on Saturday. They be eating coochie on Saturdays. Like on the weekends.
Margaritas.
Right.
That part.
You know what I mean? So I'm just like, okay.
Listen. So what advice would you give somebody who's coming into like their awakening gender identity? And what would you say to them?
I think it depends on where you are, right? Like here in London, we've got a real privilege to be able to experience a lot of different people in different walks of life and a lot of culture that speaks to those things. But I remember being in somewhere where like it was like the cultural ghetto and like absolutely barren in terms of like people that you can relate to in that sort of way. So to those people, I say, I mean, you're in the right place, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast. But do your homework. Like, there are so many people who are happy to share their experiences, and even if you can't access them immediately, there's like, I mean, I definitely found so much solace in like watching vlog on vlog about people going through their testosterone transition before I decided that was what I wanted to do. Like, there are so many people out there who are happy to talk about their experience and can give you a sort of an angle into the kind of experience that you're trying to have for yourself. Other than that, talk to somebody. And like being open with yourself is the first step.
Yeah, we do.
Because even if you're not ready to be open with somebody else, like the inner piece of actually knowing where you are is so profound and really opens up doors that you don't even expect exist for you. So I feel like just honesty with yourself is the main thing. And then becoming honest with your community, and then finding, if it is about finding a new community as well, go after it. Like, I think people are a lot more kind than we expect sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you present them with a challenge, the challenge of accepting you, a lot of people are actually up to that challenge sometimes. And if they're not, find new people.
Yeah. Go where love is.
Go where love is.
You can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And what about finding a community? Was that quite easy for you? And how did you go about doing that? Because I think that's something that a lot of people ask.
Yeah.
Like, they just want to find people like themselves.
Yeah. I think, like, I've got the absolute privilege of being an artist as well, right? Like, the arts world is a lot queerer and a lot like, it's not blacker, but it really is queerer. And I think that it's much easier to find your tribe in that sort of environment. But I think it is sort of like, I mean, the internet is sort of an amazing thing, isn't it? And like there is something about, like there is going to be a like queer roller skating group somewhere.
Yeah.
There is. Yeah, there definitely is. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think like if you like, I think and this is sort of what I mean about, sort of like keying into yourself, because if you're honest with yourself and what you're passionate about and what you care about, you will then find people who align with those things. And they emerge. Like sometimes it really feels like out of nowhere. And it's just the energy that you are emitting into the world that brings what you need back to you.
Yeah.
And I think that goes regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
That's just across the board.
I mean, even if you're looking for a community of people who like happen to live unfortunately on the Thames and like fishing, you will find
You will find that,
You will. Like you're gonna find somebody who to go out to the Cotswolds with, or wherever the hell you fish in this island. I don't know. But
Apparently that Wolfhamstow, there's a little pond.
You want to go closer?
Yeah. Like you can find your people, but you have to be honest about what you're looking for and what you need. Like be honest about your needs and be brave enough to ask. And it's really scary because a lot of us have a lot of experience not having our needs met and facing what it is to be like silenced in those moments of vulnerability. But it's just like having the bravery to try again and try other people and go out of your comfort zone to get what you need. It's there.
True.
It's there.
Because you don't always find it the first time, and you can't let that knock you back.
No.
You have to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great way to end the podcast.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. Your energy and everything you have to say.
It's just beautiful. Just beautiful. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. And
amazing.
guys, you know what to do.
Come to No ID.
Yes. Get those
you know
tickets.
What to do. Like, listen, even if you haven't got it, it's even too late. Get it now.
Get it now.
when you clicked play, that's when you should have bought a ticket.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming. Thanks guys for listening. Make sure you hashtag Tutu's podcast and conversation on Twitter. Make sure you rate, review. What do you do? Subscribe,
like, comment,
up, all the good stuff. Make sure you do that. Share the play. No ID. Make sure you do that. Until next week. Peace.